What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Gunfish TV. I want to thank you for tuning in to my channel today. I appreciate it very much. Today's video is about something that a lot of you have been asking me questions about, because I do a lot of frog fishing. Therefore, a lot of you have been asking me about how I modify my frogs and what equipment I use when it comes to frog fishing. I keep it very, very simple. I do some small mods to my frogs that I do feel like makes a big difference, and I'm going to show them to you all today. And I'm also going to show you what rods, reels, and line that I use as well, you know, for different situations, because I have two different frog rods. So what I'm going to start off with is I'm going to show you the modifications that I make to my frogs when I take them out of the package. So this is a brand new Booyah popping pad crasher. Okay, when I said keep it simple, I mean the only frogs that I throw are Booyah pad crashers. Now, I throw both the popping pad crasher and the regular pad crasher as well. And I'll go through what the difference is and what scenarios I use them in as well. But I modify them both the exact same way. There's no difference in the way that I modify the frogs before I use them. So this is a brand new popping pad crasher out of the package. So all of them come, all frogs, no matter what brand, come with some super long legs. Now, you don't want the legs to be that long. That can cause short strikes. The bass doesn't focus on the body of the frog as well, and your frog doesn't walk as well either. So what you want to do, a good rule of thumb, is take your frog, flip it over just like this, and you'll see that the legs come down past the nose. So what I like to do is take it, and I like to hold it just like this right here, and I like to trim those legs. So I'm holding it just like that. So I got a pair of scissors, and I'm going to trim the legs just below the nose of the frog. All right, so I got that side, and then I got this side. All right, so now you can see it's shorter, but actually I want it a little bit shorter than that. So I'm going to go even a little teeny bit shorter than that. And then I'm going to keep one side longer. Now, you might be asking, why do you keep one side longer? You keep one side longer because it helps the frog actually walk better. So a good rule of thumb, like I said, is flip it over. But when I flip it back, I just look at it, and I've, you know, trimmed a lot of legs on a lot of frogs, so I kind of know how long I want it. So about that long is how I like it. So you got the bass focusing mainly on the body, but the legs are long enough to do their thing and to look good, but your bass is focusing mainly on the body of your frog. Like I said, one a little bit longer than the other, that helps you walk it better. All right, so got the legs trimmed up. The other thing that I do is I bend my hooks up. All right, so if you look at this frog the way it is right now, the hooks are very straight with the body. Very straight with the body. I want those hooks to be bent up a little bit. So I take my pliers and I like to just tweak them up a little bit. Both sides. Get it? And tweak it up a little bit. All right, so sometimes I don't get it exactly right the first time, and I can tell this left hook, I can tell both of them aren't bent up as much as I want them to be. I got to get the skirts back here behind the hooks again so I can kind of look at it. Yeah, I want to go a little bit more. So we want to bend them up a little bit more, because you want that hook to actually be pointing upward just a touch. Okay, so now you can see, I want that one up a little bit more. All right, so now you can see that the hook is sitting upward. It's still down right at the body, but when you take your finger and go over the top, the hook is sticking in my finger. That is a big difference in the gap from what it was previously. So the hook is sitting just upward, and you can see it has a little bit of an upward angle to it right there. just like that. So your gap is a lot more. Your hookups are gonna be way, way, way higher if you bend your hooks up like that. I'm telling you, 100% your hookups are gonna be way, way better. So that's the other mod that I do to frogs, is bending the hooks up. Like I said, you don't want them to be sitting way, way up, but you want them to be up from the body. So when that frog collapses, you have a lot more gap to get into that fish's mouth. And now also, you know, if you have a bad hook set, the fish runs to you or whatever, you have a lot better chance of driving those hooks into that fish as opposed to the hooks being level with the body. All right, so that's the mods that I make to my frogs before I throw them. Now there are a few other things that I do as well. So this is a black and yellow frog. This is a dart frog. This here is a good old aqua frog that I throw. So you can see this is the aqua frog popping pad crasher right here. And this has a white belly, of course, but I like to draw some little legs and some little feet on the bottom with a permanent marker. This is just something that I do. I've done it for a long time. It's just a confidence thing. It literally has probably nothing to do with me catching any more fish than if it wasn't. But I like a little bit of black and a little bit of breakup on the bottom of this body. And I mean, let's face it, what frog doesn't have legs? So I draw some little legs on the bottom of all my white frogs. That's just something that I do. Confidence thing. If you want to do it, you can. If you don't, that's fine too. It'll catch fish either way. But the other thing that I do is occasionally, if I'm fishing pads or hydrilla, which that is when I throw a regular pad crasher, is when I'm fishing pads or thick hydrilla, I throw the regular pad crasher, not the popping pad crasher. I just throw a regular old pad crasher. But a lot of times I'll take 2 glass beads and I will slide the body up, and I'll kind of show you how to do it. These bodies are real flexible. So I'll take 2 small glass beads and I'll slide the body up off the hook, slide it up off the hook, and I'll slide 2 beads right into this hole right here that your hooks come out of, and then I'll slide the body back on. And all that does is when, you know, when that thing's working over the pads of the hydrilla, makes a little noise, gives it a little rattle to it. I think it helps the fish track it down a little bit better. And it's also just kind of a preference thing, but I don't do that if I'm not fishing pads, because it makes the body of the frog sit lower in the water and it makes it kind of not work really good. So I only do that when I'm kind of dragging it over pads or over hydrilla, and I want the fish to be able to track it down a little bit better. So that's something else that I do as well. So as far as frog mods, I mean, that's it. That's it. I bend the hooks up a little bit and I trim the legs. That's it. You can see this one right here is one I've been catching some fish on. Got the hooks bent up on this one as well. Got the legs shortened up. That's just how I do it. So when it gets down to equipment, a lot of people have been asking me about this green frog rod. What is that green frog rod that you've been using? Well, this is a custom made rod that Rayburn Custom Rods made for me. And you can see this says Gunfish TV Froggin Special on it. And this is a 7.3 medium heavy moderate. This rod has a lot of tip to it, a lot of tip. Let me back up so you can see this. So this rod, I gotta back up a little bit more. This rod loads up very deeply in the blank. So the rod's loading up all the way down into here. That allows me to be able to walk and work this frog very, very effectively. I can take this frog and walk it just like a spook because this rod has so much tip, but it also has enough backbone to load up into that fish and hook him good and fight him good or whatever. But this is a softer action rod than what a lot of people prefer. But when it comes to frog fishing, a lot of times you don't need as heavy a rod in certain situations as you need in another situation. So this rod is what I use for fishing very light pads, very light hydrilla, open water, and wood. You don't want to be using a lighter rod when you're throwing in thick matted vegetation, heavy pads. You want to have something with some backbone to be able to drag them out. Now I throw this on 50-pound braid 50-pound Balzac's braid, and a 6/4-to-1 Revo. This is a Revo SX. This is an old school Gen 2 right here. And I just prefer, a lot of people throw it on a faster reel, like a 7/1-to-1. Some people might throw 8/1-to-1, but 6/4-to-1 works with my cadence that I work the frog with. It works with my cadence. You can use whatever you want. This is just what I use, is a 6/4-to-1. So this green rod is a custom made rod. It's a medium heavy, moderate, fast. So it loads up deeper into blank. It's a softer action rod than a lot of people would normally use, but it's what I prefer when fishing more open water. I have a lot of control over the frog. I can walk it well. And with that little bit slower tip, I also think it helps the fish get the frog deeper when they blow up on it. Because we all know when a fish comes up and blows up on the frog or top water, no matter how much you throw it, a lot of times you set the hook a little bit faster than what you need to. But this allows me to let the fish get it deeper and catch more fish ultimately. So my other setup that I frog fish with is right here. Now this is more of my heavy cover stuff right here. Heavy matted vegetation, thicker pads. You know, this is the setup that I use. Still a Revo, this is a Revo S 6/4-to-1, 50-pound Balzac's braid. And I do have a popping frog on here, which normally I would have a regular frog on here, but the water was high today when I went fishing, so tied on the popping frog. But this is a 7.3 heavy moderate. This is a Falcon 7.3 heavy, but it's moderate. So even though it's a heavy action, I'm gonna back up again, and even though it's a heavy action, it actually has a little bit of a softer tip. Let me back up so you all can kind of see what I'm talking about. So this rod loads more towards the tip and not as far back in the blank. So you see this bends more at the tip. So it has a heavier butt section of the rod, but a little bit lighter, more moderate tip. But it has a lot of backbone to be able to drag those fish out of hydrilla or heavy pads. And this is a 7.3. A lot of people throw on a 7.6. I prefer a little bit shorter rod. I think it gives me more control, and I've never had an issue dragging a big fish out of any type of hydrilla or pads. If you prefer a 7.6, that's perfectly fine, but I like a 7.3. It does good for me, and I feel like, you know, I can walk the frog better. Even though if I'm fishing the thicker stuff, I still like to try to walk it if I can, and I think this rod allows me to do that. So heavier rod, same, but you know, if you want to go 65-pound braid, that's fine. I throw 50, but 6/4-to-1 reel, and that is what my setup is for the heavier stuff. Lighter action rod for the little bit sparser stuff, open water, wood, and then the heavier rod for the thicker, more matted stuff. So basically, like I said, I keep it really, really simple, and pretty much I've went over everything I do to my frogs and what I throw it on. You know, I keep fishing simple if I can, and I try not to make it any more difficult than it has to be. And frog fishing is the same way. Frog fishing does not have to be difficult. When it comes to frog fishing and the skill of frog fishing, I think it's all about confidence. You have to have confidence in what you're throwing. You have to have confidence in what you're using. And I have confidence in these two setups. I have confidence in my line, my reels, my two rods, and ultimately I have confidence in those frogs that I throw. Booyah pad crashers, I've been throwing them for years and years and years and years, and I have the ultimate confidence in that particular frog. So that's the one that I use. If you have confidence in another type of frog, then that's what you need to throw, because fishing is all about confidence, decision making, you know. And when you get out there on the water, you want to know what you're using is what you like, what's the best, or what you feel like is the best, because you're going to fish much harder and you're going to fish more confidently, and in the end you're going to end up catching more fish because of it. So just wanted to show y'all my, you know, my mods I make and my equipment that I use really quick. I really appreciate y'all watching. If you have any other questions or want to see any other type of videos with me talking about my equipment, comment down below. Tell me what you want to see. I really appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time on Gunfish TV.